It is an honor as a Sikh American and the Vice Chair of the California Republican Party to share a prayer from my faith tradition, Sikhism, the fifth largest religion in the world. Ardas is a Sikh prayer appealing to the one God above. Tu thakar tum pe ardas, jio pind sab teri ras. तुम मात पिता हम बारक तेरे तुमरी कृपा में सुख कनेरे कोई न जाने तुमरा अंत ऊंचे ते.
Greetings. So you just saw a clip of Harmeet Dillon offering a prayer from her religion, the Sikh faith, at the 2016 Republican National Convention. And related to that, Razib Khan recently tweeted an article from Politico about some Republicans having misgivings about Dillon's religion. As the article touches on, Harmeet Dillon is running to become the next chairwoman of the Republican National Committee. The current chairwoman is Ronna McDaniel. And the article touches on how some of McDaniel's supporters, not McDaniel herself, but some of her supporters have raised Dillon's religion as a potential negative. And it's within that context that Razib Khan offered this comment, quote, McDaniel as a Mormon is less of a monotheist than the Sikh Dillon, end quote. Now, one young man found that statement a bit curious and replied as follows, quote, how is a Mormon less of a monotheist? Do you know anything about Mormons? End quote. Razib Khan then responded with the following tweet, quote, I grew up with them. Mormons believe in innumerable gods. Do you know stuff? End quote. Now, technically, he didn't write the word stuff. He wrote something other than stuff, and I hope you'll forgive the precise language you see on your screen. And then the young man went on to write back, quote, I'm literally a Mormon, end quote. But whatever the case, I thought that was an interesting exchange. And Razib Khan's point was that if one is going to be concerned about the religions of the candidates, Dillon's faith proposes that there is only one God, while McDaniel's faith proposes that there are many gods, raising the tacit question, which one might be closer theologically to mainstream small o Orthodox Christianity? Now, admittedly, Razib Khan didn't explicitly mention Christianity, but that did come up in the article he tweeted. You see, one of Ronna McDaniel's supporters raised the question of a non-Christian being the leader of a political party which has tens of millions of Christians within it. Now, as a disclaimer, Razib Khan himself is not religious. He doesn't actually care about anyone's religion. Rather, he was just trying to make a point about the irony in all of this. And his argument was interestingly reminiscent of something which James White of Alpha and Omega Ministries said during an episode of The Dividing Line back in April of 2012. While Razib Khan alluded to how the Sikh faith might be theologically closer to mainstream Orthodox Christianity than the Mormon faith is, James White was much more explicit in stating that Orthodox Islam is closer theological to mainstream Christianity than Mormonism is. And, you know, that was in a 2-hour show. It was a 2-hour episode of The Dividing Line, but I'm only going to play a little less than 4 minutes from it, and I'm going to be picking it up at about the 8-minute, 43-second mark. So I'm just going to close this out with James White's thought-provoking proposal here, and then a clip from the film Nanak Shah Fakir, which is about the origins of the Sikh faith. And, of course, there'll be links to all my sources in the video description. And so, without further ado, enjoy the clips, fair use, and God bless.
In fact, I say something that I've never heard anyone else say. I have never heard anyone else say what I have been saying for a couple years now during my seminars. And that is that given that what you believe about God is the most fundamental and definitional aspect of a religious faith, that is, if you believe that there is one creator God, or you're a pagan and you believe in many gods, and whether you are a true monotheist who believes God is eternally God and is the creator of all things, or whether you deny that, is the most fundamental aspect of religious belief. I cannot imagine anything more foundational than that very question. And if that is the determining factor of what is and what is not close to one another in the spectrum of religious beliefs, then it follows inexorably that Islam is closer to Christianity than Mormonism is. Islam is closer to Christianity than Mormonism is. I've been saying this for years. And boy, everybody just sort of stops and goes, eh? Those nice little guys on their 10 speeds? Well, it's probably 20 or 30 speeds now. That another indication of how old we're getting. There used to be 10 speeds. But those nice little men that talk about Jesus, they're not closer to Christianity than Islam? Really? Yeah. Because Mormonism is the most polytheistic religion I have ever encountered. I have met Mormons, and I'm not talking about ignorant Mormons. I'm talking about highly placed Mormons who have attempted to argue, because I've pointed out, look, if you're going to become a god, and other worthy Mormon men are become gods in the future, then the number of gods is increasing. So if you go backwards in time, the number of gods decreases until you get back to the first god. And what was the first god before he became a god? Well, according to the eternal law of progression, he was a man. And so who created the first man? Well, to avoid that obvious conundrum in LDS theology, I have had well-read, sober-minded, intelligent Mormons assert that there are an infinite number of gods. An infinite number. Unlimited. That's the only way you can get around that, because you can't exhaust infinity, see? So you can't get back to the first God, evidently. So if you're talking about the most polytheistic, infinite number of gods, that's a lot of gods. If that is the LDS perspective, then that is as far removed as you can get from monotheism. And whatever else you say about Islam, and you can argue that Islam is inconsistent in saying that the Quran is eternal and uncreated, and therefore is you can get into that stuff, and you can talk about the inconsistency of bowing to a black stone and kissing it and all the rest of that stuff. But it affirms that there is one God that created all things, and so does Christianity. Mormonism denies that. In fact, Joseph Smith said, we have imagined and supposed that God was God from all eternity. I'll refute that idea and take away the veil so that you may see. When he refuted that idea, he separated his followers forever from the Christian faith. Okay?
Allakh alakh ya gam qadir तिसरो आखिया किस सिस्म होवी एक आसमान तरती चलसी मुकाम होई एक दिंदब चल निसस चल तार का लख बनोए